planet. That's it. Get over yourself. If you understand politics, understand that history and the jurisprudence that goes with it, you'll understand everything that Trump says, why he says it, why he doesn't say it, how he traps people, how he pulls them out, that he's really working to restore the republic. And everything he says is not what he means, but he has a charge to do. So people
when
think
you
he's
say restore the public,
Donald Trump is a Knights Templar.
okay.
So you got to know the history between the Templars and the Pope of Rome, you know, to understand politics. Now, you got to also know that the Democratic Party was set up by the Ku Klux Klan. These people are voting for their own enslavement. They don't know that the Republican Party is their party. These people that call black are Republican. The Constitution for the United States comes from Muslim law. So they didn't believe Obama, so the Pope told you. That's what the motu proprio is. Why? Because they got him for child trafficking and murder, and they're going to get him anyway. So he's trying to make amends. You understand? Because it's over. And no one's buying the UST bonds. So this is what the BRICS is, you know, Brazil, Russia, India, China, right? Korea. Go on, Mr. Cheryl.
I think that's kind of amazing because if you ask any person of color today, what party you belong to, they belong to the Democratic Party. I belong to the Democratic
Now,
Party
remember
until
this.
you just told
Now
me.
remember
You
this.
said, now
Yes,
you're trying
remember
to
this. That's why they're
right
called
label.
people of color. Why are they called people of color? Think.
Bear with me, family.
Right.
I'm trying to get y'all
Yes.
in,
Artificial person.
That's so if they're
in on the
artificial.
conversation.
If something is if you have an artificial plant, does it deserve water? So if you have people who say they're people of color, and that means there is no scientific truth to it whatsoever, it's a term that will apply to people that are designated as Christian property stock. Branded, hold on, branded, it means a semblance, a simulacrum, distinguished from that which is real. So if they say that they're not real humans, should human rights apply to people who they themselves say they're not part of the human family? And they say it proudly, don't they? Like it's some spiritual Afrocentricity, don't they? Well, it has meaning in law.
Islam. We're going to go ahead and get this thing started.
All right.
We'll give Brother Ramsey, or welcome Brother Taj Tarik Bey tonight.
Bear with me,
You
family.
on bonds and claims.
I think
But
I'm
like I
gonna
say,
switch this
Ramsey,
up.
I'll be right back. Ramsey's going to introduce everything. All right, peace, boys.
Peace.
I'd like to start this meeting with a little more prayer. Y'all can do it with me. 5 on the right, 2 on the left.
East. Where's east?
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night and
By
by day.
night and by day,
Through his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet.
and over to Ali,
Over Ali.
Islam.
Ameen. Islam.
Okay, we're gonna have Mr. Taj Tarik Bey, master teacher. Now this brother will change your whole paradigm if you just hang around him and just listen to some of the things he said. He's probably one of the most humblest
Bear with me.
brothers
I'm
in the
trying to
Moorish
get y'all
movement.
set up under my,
And,
and it's going to be a little jiggly for
y'all
a
sitting in
second.
the
So hang on,
presence of the
family.
master teacher. And I hope everybody recognizes that. I recognize it.
I recognize.
See.
And anything that you can get your hands on that he has produced, whether it's literature or videos, from whenever he's done it, you need to get it and listen to it. So with that said, let's bring on the master teacher, Taj Tarik Bey. Islam.
Islam. Islam. One of the things that Brother Ali mentioned, when we move this back a little bit, was to go into bonds. But
Can she get her stuff sealed? after the class?
Say again?
Can she get her paper sealed after?
Yes, yeah, no big deal. Yeah. All right, don't forget to let me finish that before you say. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about is the bond system. The politics that are going on right now, as an example, with Donald John Trump. Now, keep in mind, Donald John Trump is a Knights Templar. For those of you who know the history of what the popes of Rome did to the Templars, you'll understand that there's a little bit of contention there. Are we clear? Now, to tell you bluntly the truth, there was no real election. He was appointed. The same way that Obama was appointed. They had a mission to do. Are we clear? Obama was prepared for that position when he was a child, before he was even in the Senate. That's how the real world works. His job was to kill the credibility of the Jesuit order of the Federal Reserve and to prove to you the unconstitutional principles, and it was capstoned with what they called or tagged Obamacare, to force you to look at the breach of trust in government structure operating here. Are we clear? This is, again, why when Obama, now let's pay attention to sequence of operations. The man who's now mayor of Chicago, which is the sister city of Mecca, on the geographical plane, Chicago is the sister city of Mecca. If y'all didn't know that now. We're talking geography. Before Rahm Emanuel left the Obama administration, now he's a Jew. Now when he became mayor of Chicago, he did this on this day, December 22. Right? 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 What do you know about cosmology and masonry and all secret orders and culture on the earth about this day?
Winter solstice.
That is the first full day of the winter solstice of the North Gate. All right? So that's earth culture, right? So he issues a proclamation from his desk telling the history of these people here, these Moorish Americans, that they are the people of the land, North, Central, and South America. Now he's a Jew. Why does it take him to tell what all these so-called black leaders all knew anyway? Because most of them is Masons. Had nothing to do with so-called religion they claim, whether it's Islam, Christianity, Jew. They all know this history. How come it take a European to say that? Because they are operatives, overseers. Most of them have a 501c3, 501c3 skull and bones agreement kickback that John Lyndon Baines Johnson set up to control their marching Negro leader guys. And 90% of all of them are appointed 32 and 33 degree Masons, and they're always reverends of the Constantinian order, hiding behind the name Jesus. Seem good, don't it? But it leads them all into the 14th Amendment Negro citizen, which makes stock. Sold right from Water Street, 55 Water Street, New York. That makes up the stock market. It's a bond. It is a bond. That's bondage. Not a chain on your hand. Not a chain. It is the bond system. That's the bondage. So we're going to talk about bondage. Right? Now, when the Red House fell, the Red House is the Alhambra. Right? when it fell, January 1, 1492. That's why they have the Mummers Parade in Philadelphia, January the 1st. And they would do it in what you call blackface, celebrating the fall of the Moors. The Oddfellow met at Carpenter's Hall, 2 blocks down beneath Independence Hall, and that's where they altered the record, and with the German Dutch tribe masters and the Knights Templars, not some Templars, but mostly Oddfellow, and Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, drafted and start altering all the books and promoting Negro, Black, Colored, and Indian on the descendants of the Moors who were the real people of the land. That's called the Great Masonic Secret. And that's why the march starts at 6th Street and Chestnut, and it goes west, young man, Horace Greeley, Whitmore Party, turns 90 degrees square on Broad Street, goes past the battleground that now is City Hall, designed in Moorish and Ionic architecture, and it's designed just like a mosque with a parapet on the north gate, with Asiatics holding up the pillars of Atlas, Morocco, right in the north gate. And then you have the Masonic Lodge that George Washington closed, number 1 North Broad Street, and that's where the parade ends, and they make judgment, right? They don't even hide it. Problem is the people standing around looking at it don't even know it's about them. Mum is the word. And it's all about you, the Great Masonic Secret. And they think it's some guys in the corner swinging cats around their heads, and it's all about you. In bondage. Funding your own enslavement. Thinking that you know God, Jesus, and Allah, and don't even know your own bloodline. And everybody's laughing all the way to the bank. As a matter of fact, there's no cornerstone on City Hall. It's in an open grave pit in the dark north, underneath the parapet. People come around the world taking pictures of the cornerstone down in the grave pit with a brass rail. And our people on the corner selling drugs to each other don't even know they're Hiram of Biff, the great architect, buried in the dark north of his own house. This is why in the Wizard of Oz they say, Dorothy, you just bumped your head. You're home. It's symbolic. You know? Go ahead, Sister Earl.
And that buried in the dark.
Give her the mic, give her the mic. What's the second mic?
Buried in the dark in the cornerstone. What was the?
The dark north. North America, cosmologic, is the North Gate. Cosmologic. Now, they are referred to as the keepers of the North Gate. I got this. North America is, or those who are the Shriners and the Europeans and the Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, who are the collection arm for Kaiklos of Ku Klux Klan and White Camellia, refer to themselves as the keepers of the North Gate. The North Gate is land of the ancient Canaanite Moabites, i.e., in short, Al-Moroccans, descendants of Moroccans, in short, Moors. People with hair like lamb's wool, skin like burnished brass, as if burnt in the oven, who's worshiping Michelangelo's nephew, Roman, and claiming him to be Jesus, led by their 32-degree Mason, civil rights marching, 501c3 payoff artists, hiding behind the word Jesus, knowing that they're worshiping Constantine.
Okay, so what I've heard is that.
Get in the mic, please.
What I've heard is that is a cornerstone built by our forefathers that's hidden in the dark.
No, this is the deal. No, the issue of the cornerstone, when they build buildings, they put the cornerstone in the building itself at the corner. The cornerstone is not in the building. It's in the grave pit, inside the building, just inside the dark north. And the north is always elaborately dressed. Now, all of the other 4 gates, they're, well kept architecturally. But your history is told in the north gate. It's told in the architecture. Then when you walk out, you'll see the birth canal, you'll see the fountain, and then you'll see the flags of nations on both sides of the fountain. And then it goes up to one of our oldest mounds. And the building that's on there was, the architect was done by Asiatic in Hikupta style of Hikupta, what you would call Egypt. And that's really a mound, that's the art museum. And from the air, it's architecturally in the form of an M, which means matriarchy. Then at the base of it, they have a statue, and that's called Eakins Oval. And this symbolizes, when you see the European with a flag draped like that with a dagger, that symbolizes the assassination of Queen Winona, who they murdered up there on Kelly Drive, where they call Lover's Leap, and her husband Tammany. And this is when William Penn, he actually came in the Chester area. And this is how they've been claiming our area here, from the Lenape Confederation. That's the Moors that's in this area up there, is Lenape. Lenape. Here in this area is mostly Nanako. In this area. And we're not Indians. And this ain't India. That's reconstruction for Lenape. Yeah, that's in Shakamoxon area. So Philadelphia is Shakamoxon. And it's still the capital and for the Republic. Philadelphia is. Washington, D.C. is the capital of the private corporation of the Jesuit order of the dark side of Illuminati, having 3 stars. One is the Pope, one is Westminster, London, and the third is Washington, D.C. for the Jesuit order operatives on the North Gate. This is the Trinity operations of the Spanish Inquisition, the source of all your miseries and all the wars on the planet Earth and all the children who keep disappearing, and why they sell burgers $2 for $5 with soda, because you're eating your own children. And all of these main outlets where you get the cheap burgers, all of them have human DNA in it, most of the children. They can't grow cows fast enough. And that way they can get rid of the children that they rape, the ones that they don't steal their organs, and the ones they don't eat. And they take their blood, and they torture them, and it creates adrenaline in their blood, and they drink the blood. I think it costs around $8,000 a liter. And Europeans been doing this forever. And then these mothers, in the name of Jesus, keep delivering their children to the priesthood, talking about they love Jesus. They're vampires. That's why they stand behind a pulpit. They don't hide it. It's just our people are so hypocritical that they're actually blinded themselves. And they pretend to love the children. They don't love them children. They'll sacrifice them babies in a minute for a check. They'll slice of watermelon. They get rid of their men for a check and a slice of watermelon. Then wonder why we all broke up under the Christian black codes. Because we're groomed to that, if you get the point. All they needed was a couple of generations. And now the women are alone. That's true. But that's engineering. And we think there's something wrong with us. That's the Christian black code. They only planned to destroy the family. They didn't hide it. They put it right in Executive Order 11490. But some people don't read, because it's against the Lord.
I did see that on television once, where they would take the children and drain their blood and go in the shelter, the hot offerings. And
all your, bluntly speaking, all these so-called orphanages that were set up by the Jesuit order, that's why the children keep disappearing. They have an average of 142,000, I think it was last year, of so-called, children disappearing. And it's averaging around that every year. Not every year. How come nobody talks about it? These people keep talking about how over 142,000 last year alone.
But then they catch the military somewhere with 200 and something kids holding hostages recently.
Well, they rape them. They rape them and they steal their organs and they get rid of the bodies at places that's called fast food. All right, you got a computer. Y'all write this down. Investigation into human DAA, child flesh, child DNA, found in all, not some, of your so-called hamburgers sold in America, North America. That's why some countries don't allow the U.S. corporation to ship burgers to their countries. Because they already know that they sell to children. This is why people are sick. You ever notice how a lot of our people are walking around with canes and they're in mid-40s and 50s when they should be still running track, and their bones are getting brittle and they start getting dementia earlier? It's come from cannibalism. It's called mad cow's disease. It's when species eats itself. Now that's the truth. So when you go home, sis, go look up human DNA found in all of your burger outlets. That's why they can sell those 2 for $5, and they can have them sales $1. And if you go, they're eating babies. You ever notice that with all the abortions since Roe versus Wade, that they don't have no funerals for all these children that are aborted? Why have a funeral? It fills up the burgers.
Oh, God.
After they steal the adrenal glands, the medulla, the spinal cord, and they make, and the liver when they're young, and they make makeup, high-end makeup for wealthy people. You know, the makeup that you can't afford, they can afford because it's made out of the babies, of their organs, and the pineal gland. It's the truth. And all the scrap goes into the burger. That's why there are no funerals for all of these millions of children that are aborted every year. You don't see no crematoriums running. You see the burger joints running. No. How fast can you raise a cow? And how much work does it take? Let me put it this way. Let's leave here, not in the car, walking, anywhere where there's general population. 2 or 3 blocks, you're going to see burger joint here. They just got different names. Go this way, they might have another of the same ones. The same thing here, same thing where they got their houses of God.
Where are these cows coming from?
You got the bars across the street, and you got the burger joints here. And they all got sales. If anybody been around farm life, you know, recently, in recent years, they've been putting hormones to make them bulk up. However, in general, it takes time. You got to feed them, you got to clean them, you know, you got to nurture them, and you got to fatten them, and it takes really work. And for the finance that you get for selling them, you really don't get that back. Not really. Not really. It helps if they're range fed. If you got enough land, you know, it helps a little bit. But the real work that goes into it, you can't be selling no burgers 2 for $1 and 2 for $5 type thing with the buns and the vegetables and all that little stuff. And then you gotta pay these people to cook. Then you gotta pay for the oil. You gotta pay for the building, the insurances, and etc. Because they're eating their own babies. So now they're sick. So that you'll see all the major cities, all the hospital complexes are no longer hospitals, they're little cities. And you know what their major work is? Organ transplants and cancer.
How does cancer get into it?
Because it's a military weapon.
Cancer?
Duh.
Okay.
It's eugenics. It's biological warfare.
Okay.
That's a fact. Say 4 or 5 generations ago, most of y'all are young, but anybody that knows, 4 or 5 generations ago, even when you're poor, our concerns in our families was usually maybe somebody getting what they call consumption, which is pneumonia. And once in a while, tuberculosis. We didn't have all these diseases and stuff. And cancer, that was like With us,
Oh, rich.
that was Europeans' disease. You know, now we got all kinds of sicknesses, high blood pressure, diabetes, people 40 years old walking with a cane, and they ain't figured it out yet. That is the food they're eating, that they're being poisoned. No, but they're saved. I forgot that. Oh, excuse me. They're fine. They got salvation. They're good. Go ahead.
So you're saying.
Get in the mic, because I want you, you know,
So you're saying this.
get in the mic.
So you are saying that this is a new type of biological warfare too?
It's been going on.
Okay.
It's called Executive Order 11490, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, Technical Manual, Military Operations Genetic, Biological Warfare. And like when people are drinking their beers and stuff like that, they're giving them Roundup. And Roundup is by the military complex called Monsanto, and what it creates is cancers. And then when women go to the hospitals and stuff like that for colds or anything else like that, they plant them with cancer cells. And the same thing when they get mammograms. Oh yeah, cancer examination, they're giving it to them. HIV is a retrovirus that doesn't exist. It's a retrovirus that they did experiments with Agent Orange during the beginning of the wars that they took over for the Franciscan order, and with pigs. Matter of fact, it got so bad they had to slaughter thousands of pigs because that's where they was doing the testing. And the retrovirus is injected in people, and it kills the immune system. That's what AIDS is. AIDS doesn't exist. There's no such disease. It doesn't exist whatsoever. It's a retrovirus that they got from pigs doing experiments for Agent Orange to kill the plant life that they interject in certain communities to kill off. And mainly they interjected in South Asia, Asia Sol, or what you call Africa, that's South Asia, to kill off the population. It didn't totally work, but that's what it's for. And then they did it in New York, amongst the gay community, etc., and stuff like that. They was interjected. Then they invite people to come get flu shots, and they give you flu. That's how it works, because these people are like cattle, and they keep believing these Romans. And then they take their children to them. And they plant the children in school with retroviruses. And also, this is why you see the children coming down with Down syndrome.
Autism.
Because they put mercury in it, which poisons it. And then if the children are sharp, you know, very attentive, and they're learning, then they'll say they have deficit disorder and start giving them Ritalin, preparing them for jail and the drug trade. Well, and these people keep delivering their children to these Europeans who they call white people, which means sovereign. Then they get mad when he acts like sovereign, which of course is a contradiction. But it has nothing to do with the fact that they can't read, if that's what it means. You know, and they want to get mad. You know, you God. And they act like God. You racist. Racist is the human species. These people can't read, they don't understand. They always let some, see, the European's power is that he controls the narrative. Once he controls the narrative and you follow, now he's your master. And as me and Brother Ali was talking on the way down here, even the nature of the Dred Scott case of 1857, right? Most important slave case ever to come before the Supreme Court. You take most of these scholars that claim that human beings are crayons, you know, the light-skinned black guy was suffering from racism from the white man. No, plaintiff in error. He claimed to be Dred Scott. A free man honors his mothers and fathers. No free man uses the name of another people. Because his inheritance is in the pedigree and the bloodline of his foremothers and his forefathers. Such civilized people honor their mothers and fathers that they may receive an inheritance for generation to generation. People who are what you call conversos, who sell out, they accept the brand system of the German Dutch masters. Therefore, he claims to be Smith, Jones, and Johnson too, and wonder why he ain't got no rights in laws called plaintiff in error. Civil liber mortuus, dead in the view of the law, i.e. black people. That's what it means. That's law. Those are terms in law. They're not identities. Then they want to get mad and march all over the place. Meanwhile, they talk about gods and devils every 2 minutes. You know, how dare somebody talk about gods they don't see, don't even know their own bloodline? This is why I said ignorance of the law is no excuse. So if you don't know the law begins with you, tough cookies. That's how it works. So Dred Scott case, what? Plaintiff in error. What is the error? He claimed to be Dred Scott.
So he admitted that he was property from the get-go.
It's called proper person. In law, if you're not in your proper person, you have no argument in law on status. And status and estate in law are equals. Therefore, such persons are bonded. Ain't no chain on your hand. It's the bond. It's the paperwork. It's the claim. Everything is made on a claim. Are we clear? So when Europeans claim to be Americans and the Americans don't refute it, it's called tacit acquiescence, correct? So then the Europeans start going around the world in our name doing stuff. They're blaming the Americans, and it's really Europeans doing it. And these people think they ain't Americans. Why? You ain't American? No, man, I'm a light-skinned, orange-skinned black man of color. Really? These people don't even know what that means in these artificial persons. Now, all the scholars that are teaching them that know it too, because they Masons, all of them. All of them. And they give them all kind of plaques on the wall and stuff like that for marching all over the place. If they so saved, why they marching and begging all the time? Let's be real. Let's be real. If y'all ain't got it going on, right? And I got all the sandwiches with my Lord, because y'all don't know the Lord and stuff. I got a personal number. Call Jesus for a minute. Excuse me. I was talking to him this morning. He got a new iPhone and stuff. Oh, no, y'all ain't ready for this. Y'all don't understand. I got a personal relationship. You know, y'all got all this going on, then I don't need none, right? Right? If you got all this going on, why you begging? That's right. You got all this going on, why you marching? That's right. Leave all the goodies for them because you got all the best. If you got all the best, if I got all the sandwiches, why do I want to deprive you of getting the sandwiches on the table? Why I'm running over there to get some sandwiches? Y'all got that? I'm here with the men. I got all the sandwiches. I got the kingdom. I got the grapes. I got the honey and stuff. You know, you got all this going on. Why are you begging? We are hypocrites to the extreme. And we need to be called on it. And we need to stop selling out the coming generations and telling them that they're saved when all they see is death, destruction, broken families in jail, and drugs. And we're lying to them because we're hypocrites. And nobody won't call us to it because we always say Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, Muhammad. And usually the leader guy's got a $3,000 suit on in a nice house, and the people, the widows, is struggling to keep their phones on. They're the believer groups. Now, I'm not supposed to say that, am I? Because it's like true. I'm not supposed to say that, right? No, I ain't taking it back. Because we're talking about bondage, right? Now, let's talk about this. Now, the Red House is the Alhambra, right? And I'll just get through this real quick. When Obama went to Hikupta, that you call Egypt, that's the Greek name for Hikupta, right? And he exposed that the American Constitution comes from Muslim law. Michelle goes to the Red House, the Alhambra, as a signal, and she wears a red dress, right? And so when they come through the double doors representing high self and low self, they have the trading banner over to the right, and they have the American flag on the side. They keep the American flag, and they crop out the stars and stripes trading banner. It's not in the picture. To show you your flag. Then they sign the rights of indigenous people when he comes back for these people to declare their nationality. The whole international community. Now remember, Rahm Emanuel left the administration the year before, 2 years before, and exposed Noble Drali and the fact that you're the people of the land. That's not hidden. It's documented. Where's all these so-called black leaders? I think they're working for Rome under their 501c3 Skull and Bones agreement for a few pieces of silver. They don't even give them silver no more. They give them slugs. They don't even know what money is. But let's go into the bonds. The bonds bondage. These are called bottomry instruments. Some of them are that's some of your bottomry instruments. All of them are bank bonds. All of them are owned by the Jesuit order. Have nothing to do with public record, has to do with trading on Water Street. Human trafficking. Fact, not fiction. This comprises the operative bondage of people. Now, logically, with us, if you don't have an organized body politic by which you're enforcing treaty and constitution and not waiving any rights or unalienable rights, these are all liens placed upon the living man and woman, your lifeline, your breathing, your right to work and to make a living. And the eggs in the womb. The marriage license is a claim on the eggs in the fallopian tube by the Pope of Rome. Birth certificates are certificates of the eggs that hatch. Driver's license is to stop traffic. Stop you, it's called trading. All right, it stops you from moving around the earth without paying road. There's a toll on your life.
What about passports?
Speak up.
What about passports?
Same thing. It's for shipping. Passports are for ships, not for humans. But they impose them on humans under the corporate auspices of conversion of your estate.
Is it true that that could be addressed by addressing the de jure state that you're going to?
Yes, but the deal of it is, now this is the point. What is, and the floor is open, and pass the mic because we want to share this. We want to make sure that we're kind of up on what we're talking about. What is the foundation upon which the address is made? When I say the address is made, if you're making the issue, there's a platform for it.
Nationality?
Huh?
Nationality versus diversity?
No, give him the mic. Okay, where's the mic? Okay. All right, good brother. What is the platform that's made? As an example, this is an example. You're Manchurian, right? No. The wrong place. But some of you are Manchurian. You gotta remember, we're Asiatics.
Yeah.
Say you're Russian. Say y'all have a treaty, right? Say you're Zimbabwe. Say you have a treaty with Russia, but you don't have a treaty with Manchuria. But you want to trade or communicate with Manchuria, right? Therefore, he would act as a liaison under international law of treaty to make agreements for trade between you. That's how the world works. That's for nations on Earth planet. What happens with people who are not part of a nation? They can't participate in that, so they're usually poor. Not because they need to be, because they are subject to someone. Who are they subject to? Find a nation that's ruling over their sovereign right. How do you identify them? They're usually called Negro, Black, and Colored. They have no nationality. That's how you can identify the Christian property. They will open their mouth and tell you who they are. But they think it means identity. The rest of the world knows it means property. Do you understand? So what happens if you want to fix that? You got to honor your mothers and fathers like everyone else. Do you understand? So you got to know the instruments that are used for the trading, or what is called derivatives, that operate from 55 Water Street and the DTC of human trafficking all around the world, the bondage system, the bonds, the trading bonds. So these people are on the stock market and think they're made some agreement with God and Jesus. So if you don't fix this, then that's called tacit acquiescence, isn't it? And the trade continues, doesn't it? Right? So what is the platform by which that communication is made? It's called consular venue all over the world. So if I come to your territory and I'm from another nation, I would go to the consulate and deal with both passages or what you would call a conditional citizenship card from A1 to 19 according to what I'm dealing with in your country. And my nationality would be on that, and the first thing would be concerned, do we have a treaty? So upon that, you allow me to go amongst your family to protect, because your duty is to protect your family. Because nations are simply expanded families. So a person without a nationality would be coming under programs, not under international rights or protections. You see? Now you understand why certain people this can happen to them and nothing happens? And you can do that to a national, now you got an international incident. The status makes all the difference in the world. Now, point. So if yes, we can make that argument, and you should make that argument. However, there's limited strength behind it. Why? Because the numbers and the venue that should be used is not being applied. This is why the German Dutchman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, shut down consular courts in '54. At the same time when they were making deals with some off-world agreements. So consular court was where all of our arguments were supposed to be made. And so they started promoting Negro reverend guys doing civil rights, getting us marching all over the place to divert you from the attention that we're on the wrong platform. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So since 54, systematically, all the hotels that were owned by our people start closing down. All the hospitals that were owned by our people start closing down. All the mom and pop stores that our people controlled start closing down. All the blocks of businesses that we used to own, including the fishing industry, on the East Coast start closing down. And now these people are begging, they're using plastic cards, getting sick, and they ain't got crap. Because they wanted to eat at Woolworths instead of their own restaurants. And some Negro reverend marched them in there to do that kind of stuff, thinking that they were getting rights. Plus, the people can't cook any damn way. So let's be real. Let's be real. Now they're eating GMOs and getting sick. Right? It used to be, you know, when we were under occupation, because we are under occupation, that they would have maps laying out all of our properties and places all across the country where you could travel the country. You knew where the hotels go in, the restaurants, the hospitals. All of that's gone now, following behind 33-degree Masons who happen to be reverends, who got a secret 501c3 skull and bones agreement with Lyndon Baines Johnson to keep this Negro black. Negro means monkey, so that ain't part of the human family, and promote it as an identity. And these people thought these people were spiritual. Now look at us now. Families all broke up. The youth are dying younger and younger. And we act like they raised themselves rather than that the adults sold them out. And don't tell me it's not true, because it's true. Yeah. And they ain't got nothing. And, you know, and they go into debt for an education and then can't use it because they're being miseducated. Some of the things we're talking about, you know, if you interject, you feel like bringing them up. Molly, you know.
Excuse me.
So the bondage.
Excuse me.
Go ahead. Get in the mic.
Oh.
Yeah. Get in the mic.
Okay.
Just
Get
talking
in the
to
mic.
it.
Oh, okay. Also,
Get in the mic.
oh, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Also, bring up the part that in Oklahoma, we had.
Yes.
Go ahead.
You know what a lot of people don't know about Oklahoma?
Go ahead.
You know what a lot of people don't know about Tulsa?
Go ahead, sir.
They talk about the bombing of Tulsa. This also took place in Greenville, North Carolina. Not just there.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
You know, I tell you, look, that bank in Tulsa was the wealthiest bank in North America.
But is it because they knew how to, they knew about the banking
Speaking
system?
to the mic.
Right.
Is
Get
it
the mic.
is it because they knew about the banking system?
No, stop. You got to remember, we're the people of the land. They were not conversos. See, the conversos are the so-called, the Moors who want to be black and Negro and the Indians to get a benefit from the Romans who are occupying our land. So they think they're going to get a red apple, and so they're called conversos. So these are Muslims and Jews who claim to be Constantinians, but they hide behind the word Christianity. They're conversos. Are we clear? Those who honored their mothers and fathers had control of their own estate. They're just simply working. They're simply producing their own. We're very creative people. That's why they're wealthy, not because they knew the banking system, because they weren't under Christian rule. That's why they bombed them. But they looted before they bombed them. They murdered them and fed them to the pigs. They don't tell you that part of the history. Yes, they did. They took bulldozers and fed them to pigs. They murdered so many. So it's not the banking, it's the fact that they controlled their own estate. See, this is what we got to keep in mind.
Control their own estate.
And at that time, you had gold and silver coins, not slugs.
That's right. That's right.
And the dollars could be redeemed for lawful money. The dollars are the checks. They're not money, never was. They're checks. Now the people think the other paper is a check. They get the Federal Reserve note, which is a debt note, and not a dollar. Dollar comes from Yakinthaler, means gold coin. Yes. See, our people only know what money is. They're under bondage. So the education that's given to them supports the bondage system. So they think the bondage is a chain. No, it's the Yakum Thaler, which means gold coin. It's just short of that. And they use the word Spanish to cover up Moorish history. You understand? It's like Latin, Moorish Latin, they call it Spanish. Ain't no such thing as Spanish. No such language exists. It's Moorish Latin. And the people in the islands, Borican, the Taino, Arawak, and Carib, they're Carib Moors, Arawak, they're all Moors. Moreno. Everybody knows it, but these people here. Because they think these people are crayons. Because they've been trained like monkeys under the John D. Rockefeller education system that they set up in 1902 after they murdered Winona in Philadelphia. And they say right in their philosophy page, they're going to teach these children to do perfectly what their parents have been doing imperfectly. That's their education system. And they post it, it's right on the website. They don't even hide it. But guess who don't read? These people keep delivering their children to these people. Our children is miseducated. And what we gotta do is march and pray and make them know we're somebody. They ain't even read these daggone philosophy page. Because they're delivering their children to be miseducated and then want to complain because they're miseducated. What does that talk about relative to hypocrisy?
Islam.
How more hypocrite can you get than that? You can't get no more hypocritical than that. Where,
So the bonds is dealing with the marriage certificate, the birth certificate.
those, now this is what's important. Collectively, they are called bottomry instruments. Now when they talk about slave ship, township, all that kind of ship, bottomry instruments are related to the cargo that's at the bottom of ships. You're the cargo. So this is where they say that they have these so-called Asiatics in the ships, in the bottom of ships, on chains. What's not true in the physical is bottomry instruments.
Right.
You understand? Listen. How many of y'all go fishing? All right? You go fishing. Now, don't hesitate to get the mic. We know, as a fact, that Asiatics, Moors have been sailing the oceans since the planet's been here. This is why they even call where you dock ships Moors. That's why they even call it the Moors. Even the moat around castles, they call them Moors. After the Moors, the civilizers of the planet. Yeah, it's not a secret. Now the deal, a lot of your cobblestones that they have in a lot of your old towns were used for ballast, for shipping, for thousands of years. That's why they could do streets with them. Now, you notice that they were generally uniform, those cobblestones? Right? You think every one of them stones that somebody was sitting there chipping just like this by hand? The world is behind in technology because it's been hidden. The Romans will admit that after they defeated the Moors that they put the world back 500 years. They admit to 500. It's really a little bit more than 1,000. This is why the European is powerful, because he has more science, and they keep it beneath the Vatican, and they run the world with it, and they eat your babies. When they do the blood ritual of the wine and the wafer as the body and the blood, that's for the public, but they do that for real in the chambers. That's where all your babies have been disappearing to. Now, that's the truth. That's the truth, has always been true. The problem with people is that they're in denial. In their heart they know, but we punked out. You know, so we like to talk about we're gonna kick the devil's butt. That's because they're scared to face Rome. You ever notice that all these so-called black leaders always having prayer vigils? You notice that they never ask their gods to stop this man from doing all this misery on the planet? They'll talk about every daggone thing else. God, one of these days, give me some peanut butter sandwiches. And I was sick, and I tripped. I was going out in Kmart and tripped, and I bumped my head. I found a nickel. That was a blessing. I went and bought me a
Sacrifice.
Yeah. This is how we talk. Meanwhile, Rome got these bonds, and they got 3 homes at your expense of your estate, and our people sit around talking racism because the Negro leader guy said that through his Skull and Bones agreement. And these people only know that their 501c3 was set up by Lyndon Baines Johnson to control their marching Negroite leader guys. Are we clear? They got bonds too. Are we clear? Now this is the point that I'm making. The bond system, though in principle, in ancient principle, the operations of the bondage system at North America has much to do with the operations of the activities of the Commercial Mercenary Board that they call the Civil War, and they set up T-bond system after defeating the Aboriginal people, because they called us Indians. And the Trail of Tears is where they were stealing our land and running us off the land under the Christian Black Codes and the doctrine of discovery. Right? So the same techniques that they used then, they actually use in the Army right now. Like if they draft you, you're in the Northeast, they're going to send you to the Southwest. Yep. If you're in the Northwest, they're going to send you to the Southeast to disorient you.
That's right.
They use the same techniques, they don't even change it.
Oh, wow.
And everybody keeps forgetting these are foreign,
That's true.
alien Europeans faking and claiming to be Americans
Because I was in the military.
in your name. Identity theft. Then they put their name on you under what is called escheat orders to steal your estates. And then get your leader guys to get you to agree in the name of Jesus, God, Allah, whichever flavor ice cream you're into, to fall in love with these brands as if they're identity. Are we clear? Now this is true. The Gnostic instruction, as an example, Zoroaster in Islam, the ancient Mauryan Nanda Gupta dynasty of the Gnostic philosophies that's in Islam, Yahudi, or Judaism, what you call Judaism, that's kind of false, it's Yahudi. The Brahmic priests all have an original origin from the same thing, of cosmology. Now, the rulers give it different names and claim them different religions and code them differently to control people. Are we clear? Masonry and your secret societies is where those who are ruled are told the truth about all of them so that they don't fall for what they are promoting on the masses. Are we clear? Give it a mic, go ahead.
So did I just understand you say that all the religions and what's practiced and what's taught is the same from each?
Now let's talk about what the same means. Let's talk about what the same means.
Well, let's start.
No, I'm going to explain to you what for everybody. When I say the same, not exactly that. Like say if you go into Rome or European tribes, the Eye of Horus or Eye of Allah is called the Eye of Jove. So scholars know that the Eye of Allah, or the 7 eyes of Allah, the Eye of Horus, the Eye of Jove are the same thing. People who are in the dogma systems think they got something different. The priesthood know they all mean the same thing. It's just coded. Are we clear? In Islam, when they make circumambulation is where we go around the cube, which is Kaaba. So the cube Kaaba is draped. And they got Anne Hagar, who ruled in Central America, ancient Amexem, Olmec. So she was the Olmec empress, Anne Hagar. She's in the grave in Mecca, on that side of the water. She ruled in the Yucatan. And she gave rulership over the children of Israel to Hammurabi Bey. And Hammurabi's code of law is still existing in its total form. It's in the museum right there in California. Under Khalifa's house. That's Queen Khalifa. You see her all in stone with dreadlocks. California is Khalifa's territory. So it's called California. It's Khalifa. You know, everybody knows this but these people here. But all Masons know it. All Grand Dragons know it. All Illuminati know it. The only people that don't know it is these people who think human beings are crayons. Because they don't know themselves. But they always talk about gods and devils every 2 minutes, aren't they? And they wonder why the civilized world has no respect for black people. Because they're extreme hypocrites. It's like wearing a neon sign saying, I'm a traitor. It is, but they don't know because they don't know the history.
But that's what we were taught in school.
It doesn't excuse you. Now, look at this. Now, I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm not disputing what you're saying. This is what I'm saying to you. Remove the emotions. Remove the emotions. In law, ignorance of the law is no excuse. What is that predicated on? It's predicated on the honor of your mothers and fathers. What does that mean? This is what it means. How dare you claim to know a God or love a God that you do not see, and love not your brothers and sisters whom you see by the day, nor know the truth of what's before you, but you're going to talk about what's in the netherworld? You're unqualified and you are in contempt. This is why they don't forgive people when they start making excuses. So don't make them, because when you make the excuse, now you're in contempt. Do you understand that now? And most of our people don't understand that because nobody will pull them to the table because we want to play victim. You know, now look at this. Let's be real. Here we are in everlasting life, right? In Capitol Heights, right? At the Kingdom Square building, right? And we're going to say, well, we don't understand this, but we're going to tell you about the map that's on the back side of the moon, the dark side of the moon where the crater is, you know, where the next one with the high window, you know, with the pyramid structure here and the face on Venus with the faces looking up, and you can, and I was looking at it and I was writing the scriptures down. You know all this shit. And what you mean? Which way is Philly? I don't know, man. You can't get across town without getting profiled and know how to handle it, but you're going to tell about what's on Venus.
That's right.
You don't know the scriptures or the black codes that are used to rule and destroy your family, but you're going to talk about what Jesus, whose sandwich he gave to the widow or somebody. You know, this is what it means when it says that ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's why in law they don't excuse you. And when you start making excuses, the more you talk, the more you're in contempt. Not only that, you're usually transacting business in another man's name. What's your name? Butchie Smith. Butchie Smith. Property. Then they treat you like property under the black codes because they're a code system. And it's not a complexion of African people, it's a code system. You want to sell pit bulls like they're elephants and they get mad because somebody called you on it? You want to transact business in another man's name and want to talk about why you don't own property when you don't own yourself? But you're too arrogant to honor your own mothers and fathers. You want to be Roman, then you're mad because now you're serving Romans. You're going around the world doing things in his name. Well, black people ain't got nothing. Well, ain't no such people called black. That's a brand that's given by the German Dutch masters for Moors who they defeated to identify their property from civilized people who have nationalities. It's very simple. So persons are held into bondage. And so they make instruments for them to regulate, and it goes on the stock market. It does. You know, so when you're looking at the Social Security, you're looking at that red Cusick number, they call it Cusick number. That's a routing number of one of the 12 banks of the Jesuit order of Illuminati. 12 districts.
Social
Security number is a routing number?
The red number.
On that social security number, that red number is a routing number to one of the banking systems. Of the 12 banking systems that are regionally under European colonial operations in the Western Hemisphere.
AG is Chicago.
Controlled by the Jesuit order, answerable to the Pope. Set forth by Skull and Bones member Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933 to back the U.S. corporation debt.
You can look up the letter on the number, before the numbers on your social security, and that letter is usually designated the
12
bank.
12 Federal Reserve
like
banks.
G is Chicago, I think. They got a whole list.
Yeah, these are different regions. They're banking route numbers, and that's to the global estate trust that they set up since 1492 to govern and to administer over conquered peoples and lands. So all members, like if you have a CEO of any large corporation, Sears, who owns Kmart, as example, say Bezos, etc., with Amazon, anybody, Gates, anybody that's a CEO of any corporate entity in the entire Western Hemisphere is a member of the Roman Curia. Therefore, they will be a Mason, or Shriner, or an Eastern Star, or Knights Templar, or Knights of Columbus, or Knights of Malta. And every president is a Knight of Malta, even if he belongs to another order. And how many generations it takes for us to sacrifice to start figuring out something that the deck is marked? That's why we keep losing. At what point do you keep losing and then keep talking about you saved, but you always losing? I mean, at what point does, common sense kick in? An ant will figure this stuff out after a couple of days. Really, we really have a problem. And ain't no devil did it to you. Some man with 2 feet, some son of perdition, that's got a bank bond, bodily instrument on you, and there's a number on it that they go through a routing number of one of the 12 banks of the Jesuit order under the control of the Jesuits, etc., answerable to the Pope of Rome under the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors and Jews. That's no secret. Why is this stuff difficult? Because people don't want to face it, because most of them are such hypocrites. They've been funding their own slavery under the guise of Christianity, knowing that they're worshiping Constantine. But nobody calls them on it because there's so many of them in the club. We pat each other on the back. That is true.
Yes, sir.
Give the brother Mike.
No, I got it. Yeah. Thank you.
And that's not to knock people who claim to be Christians. It's just that it's a political system. It has nothing to do with spirituality whatsoever. And as y'all, as scholars know, that the name of Christianity, the official name, is Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. And the reason why Reverend Jones won't tell them the official name, because it becomes obvious that he's a Skull and Bones operative, meaning that he doesn't have to be a member, he's getting a kickback. 501c3 kickback, that's what their tax exempt is, to keep this Negro black marching thing going on, make these people think that they're safe when they're stock. Go ahead, good brother.
Sister, you was talking about what we were talking.
Get the mic, please.
What we were talking.
See, when you talk away from it, it's not coming into the...
You go.
Okay. When you were talking about how we were taught in school, remember when they said that the majority of the European world thought the earth is flat? That's true. That's very true. We were selling, like he was saying, we were selling around the world.
Yeah.
Going from geographic to geographic. And use like you were saying, the sky as navigating. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, the cross is a tool for navigation. It's not an instrument of worship.
And
It's
we
for,
taught
it's for
them.
navigation,
Yeah.
and it belongs to us. You know, this is again when people don't know the real history, and they start rejecting things in the name of religion. The mass, I want to make this point, and we all know this because this is redundant.
Yeah.
The masses don't get religion; they get dogma. The priesthood maintains religion for themselves. This is the key to their power. Are we clear?
Clear.
And when we say that they're all the same, it doesn't mean what appears on the surface. Back to point. When we make circumambulation around the kubak, around the cube, which is Kaaba, 7 times counterclockwise, each one of those rotations represent one of the seven ruling planets in this particular solar system. When you see in the Bible, in the Septuaginta, in the book of Revelation, as you can see, and you see Yeshua standing among 7 golden candlesticks. That's the 7 ruling planets, and it's gold because that's the alchemical metal for the sun, i.e. the Son of God in the sky, and its transits and the equinoxes, and the mathematical calculations of its movements and the relationships of the planets and their effect on life on the planet, in the growth patterns and the tides, from which you get an almanac. That's religion, all over the world. Now, when it comes out to the world, the priesthood, because they're selfish, dark priests, they're vampires, they'll tell the children Santa Claus's sleigh. But in secret, in their Masonic chambers, Santa Claus's sleigh is the Dipper, and the 7 sisters.
Right.
The star chart. And the lead star would be Rudolph's rose-nose,
Red nose.
you know, nose so bright. See, but the children, when they're children, they think as children think. They do the things that children do. When they become men and women, they're supposed to be taught the science of Islam. It's not supposed to be no longer Islam. It's supposed to be I, self, law, am master. Or I, self, law, adept, master. They're all adepts. And that's in the chambers of every order, whether you're dealing with Orthodox Christianity, if you're dealing with the what you call Yahudi or Judaism, then you have the rabbinate, and then all of them have Gnostic science from the Essene order of what they call Yeshua was an Essene. He wasn't Christian. He was Muslim. His grandmother's name was Ruth, the Moabitess. They even got a book in the Bible for her. She was Moabite, so was the one they called Jesus. That's not his name, that's what the Romans called him after the Nicene Council tampering with the books to hide the history. That's the truth. And he spoke Aramaic. So when he greets you, he'd say, Assalamu alaikum. That's Aramaic. Peace be unto you. You know why they won't say that? Because they throw that reverend out on the street on his head. Oh, you Muslim. They lie on this one they call Jesus. And it ain't no J in Hebrew, ain't no J in Persic, ain't no J in Urdu, ain't no J in any of your Semitic languages. It's Yah. You know, and Jesus is not a translation of Yeshua. It's not. So get over it. Huh?
How do we then, because based on my understanding, all of those things that you have, the marriage license, birth certificate, passport, those are all fine.
These are
commercial documents, basically.
What does commerce?
So
What does commerce mean? Commerce means trade,
business,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, stop. No, don't put the mic down. It's not just for our conversation, it's for the people who are listening. Commerce means trade. Get in the mic.
Okay.
All right.
So
wait a minute. Government exists only to secure the birthrights or the pre-existing rights of humans on Earth planet. Governments don't have rights to sell or to license, thus none to give. They only exist to preserve rights that already exist. Where did all these license sales come from? Except they stole your birthright. And it's listed under what? Commerce, human trafficking. A birthright and an unalienable right, a lien, is a burden. It cannot be sold nor transferred to another. Is that correct? Then where'd your right to travel get interrupted with by foreign Europeans faking as Americans and no one's challenging them? Back to the platform. No one's speaking about it. Nevertheless, going to him, asking him for permission to breathe, to braid your child's hair, to fix your window in your house. That's a foreign European, an alien, calling everybody else aliens, and y'all keep letting them get away with it.
So like,
You understand what I'm saying to you?
Islam.
Go ahead.
And they call themselves,
Give me the mic.
They call themselves pilgrims.
they do.
That's right.
Now, peregrinus, pilgrim comes from peregrinus. Now, keep your mic.
No, that's
Peregrinus means wandering stranger.
right.
Wow. Hold on a second.
That's the etymology.
How you spell that?
Peregrinus is where they get pilgrim. It means wandering stranger.
Right.
Sound like a Moorish Latin word.
Of course it is.
But this is what they call themselves in the
Wow.
No, we call them that. We call them peregrinus. They accepted, called themselves pilgrims.
So how do we then navigate the various ports that we have to go through?
All right, now, very simple. What is, this is for everyone, the supreme law of the land? Get in
Constitution.
your mic. Get in your mic.
Constitution.
The Constitution, yeah. Constitution.
You didn't say that with confidence.
Constitution.
No, you didn't even move the mic away from you.
Well, the Constitution is supposed to be.
You don't do that when you're breathing. Well, it means you're breathing. What?
But we are being governed.
No, what I'm
by the
really trying to impart to you. Be firm. Be strong, be true. How much is 1 and 1?
2.
What's the supreme law of the land?
Constitution.
Why is it the supreme law of the land? Why are you looking away? How much is 1 and 1?
2.
How much is 2 and 2?
4.
What is the Constitution? The supreme law of the land. See our attention span? I'm sharing this with you to get you to think how mind control works, that we don't know we're under mind control. I'm giving you a mirror. I'm not attacking you, not disagreeing. I'm giving you a mirror. In language, communication. How much is 1 and 1? Ask me, and notice our eyes are meeting.
How much is 1 plus 1?
2. Ask me another question.
What's the supreme law of the land?
The Constitution.
Why is it the supreme law of the land?
Because it comes from the ancient one's law, principles from divine law, from Hermetic law. It harmonizes with all humans. It is international in its scope and principle, and is derived from old Muslim law. Because the land is the Maghrib, Morocco, the most extreme west. It's based on ancient principles of civilized government, with the treaties superseding it. And so therefore it is the law for governing on the land jurisdiction and partially in the water. And so that's the rules by which harmony for trade and other interchange between humans can be made, and everybody knows the rules.
And again, government cannot deal with
They
conflict.
can't, it keeps them in check. They serve you until you don't know it. Now you're serving them. That's what's been happening. That's why you got these instruments. They flip the tables on you. And you have not gone back to the constitutional fold. So what is the principle the platform. It's called Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution. It's called diversity. What is diversity? All controversies between people of one state, people of different states, people of foreign states. Dealing with what? Consulars, ambassadors, and ministers. So when there's a controversy between people of different states and different nation states, the proper venue is consular court. Article 3. What's all hard about that?
Consular court.
Well, people don't do that, do they? They start going with programs, marching all over the place, trying to get somebody to like their skin. The concept is wrong.
When you neutralize
Get in the mic. Get in the mic.
when you neutralize those bodily instruments, what effect does that have?
What it has is this. They let, you know, like it says in the Septuagint, when it says the people can't buy or sell without the mark or the number of his name, it's called the mark of the beast. These are the marks of the beast. Including Smith, Jones, and Johnson, the brands that they put on you, including Negro, black, and color. All right, it kills your estate. So now, he who controls the estate, that would be the Global World Trust. This is where your secret societies have appointed men and women that are assigned to, say, human services type organizations where they control people's children, control your family, give vaccinations to the cattle, children, cattle, chattel, cattle, chattel, cattle, chattel. You know, they're cows, and they don't understand that that's French for cow, right? And so they control you, and then they give you belief systems to keep you busy while they rape you. Then they have Negro marching leaders, usually reverends, with a 501c3 agreement that directs you to the 14th Amendment artificial person of 1868, where they converted their private corporation person. That's where it becomes person, the corporation. And then that's where the letters become all capital letter. The Sister QV Trust. Do the bottom instruments, and the birth certificates and the marriage certificates are all bottom instruments. And so they interrupt your natural right, convert it into a lien, which is what these are, bottomry instruments. They are all liens. All of them are liens. Are we clear? Now, Kitty, you know how they say in Septuaginta, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's? That means give him his shit back. But the deal of it is we don't have the guts, because really these people have been worshiping Rome. They claim to love Allah, Muhammad, Jesus, God, Yahweh. No, they fear him. They won't buy, they won't sell, they won't breathe without a license from him. He's their God. That's why they call him white man, which means sovereign. And pretend it means skin color. And anybody can show you the law book, it means sovereign. Oh, that's a sin. So they don't read, because it's a sin to read, you know. Oh, the white man made that up. Yes, they did. It's a status, it's not a complexion.
Why do you tell us not to read though? They're afraid of us learning.
No, are they afraid of us learning, or are we afraid to learn? Let's kind of put this in perspective. Let's stop playing innocent. See, the deal is the more you examine this thing, the more you find that we're as guilty as the Europeans. Yes, he's abusing us, but we are just as guilty in this bondage system. And then we start new organizations to march and pray all over the place to deal with the symptoms, because we don't want to deal with the root of the problem. Back to your issue. They don't want to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, because they figure they ain't going to get a peanut butter sandwich.
So we enable him to...
Yes, we're aiding. It's called tacit acquiescence.
Okay. Enablement...
We're aiding in our own enslavement and pretending that we're not.
So So,
Talking to Mike, brother.
okay, so basically,
Talking to Mike.
when we deny them and give, like they give them that stuff back.
Now, this goes where, what is that called? You're not denying them, you're rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar's. He will resist because he's a vampire. That's like you saying, wait a minute, get the straw up my neck. It's like going to the vampire party, right? You invited to the party. Oh, damn, man. Well, we got an invitation to start. Let me see. Excuse me. You are invited to Vampy's party. Bring a friend. Tight. Yeah. We going, man. Going to Vampy's party and stuff. Yeah, we guys stop getting cake and stuff like that, give them gifts and stuff. So we go to the party and everybody says, yeah. Like they turn up the lights and you waiting for them to turn the lights. It's dark and you start lighting matches and everybody going. You don't like the cake at Vampy's party. You don't turn on the lights. You just didn't know.
Oh, wow.
You understand the principle? So the principle is we keep buying into it and then complaining about the conditions. What is the supreme law of the land? Back to the point. Constitution. Right? Mm-hmm. Is it not true? Article 6 of the Constitution says all treaties made, this Constitution and all treaties made which shall be made on the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land.
Right.
That's got 7 articles, 10 Bill of Rights. At what point these people read books, they know all the albums of the new singers, know the old albums, they ain't read that Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Enforce it. However, being Negro, black, and colored, you have no connection to it. That's why they use the brand system. Because that Constitution comes from Moorish law.
And the treaty.
That's why they gave you the, yes. So it supersedes all activities. So the first thing you do, you come together, don't you? Right? You make public declaration. Public declaration of your right of claim to your name, which is an attribute, and your nationality, that brings you back into the constitutional fold. Then you enforce the Constitution. That's how it's done under Article 3.
Yes, sir.
I'm just telling you, that's the platform.
Yeah, also,
Why do we make it complex? Because we keep trying to reinvent the wheel. We'll sit around and have meetings. We got to get together and figure out how to fix this. Constitution's right there. But what we got to do is have a meeting, and a black meeting, and talk about there's the Constitution. But I know. That's that Morris thing. Well, what we need to do, and this is what our problem is.
but also,
You get the point?
also you got more of us in prisons. Tell them about
Get in the mic.
the prison system.
Why they're in prison? Because they have bonds. Listen.
Yes, sir.
No, keep that for a minute, just in case you want to back up what you're saying.
All right.
Whenever they make what is called a charge is a claim against an existing bond. Every legal case has with it an adjoining allonge that's called a bond. So every legal case has a bond. Why do you never bring it up?
And isn't it true that the bond is supposed to be there for every single case?
Yes!
No matter what it is.
Thank you. For you have the opportunity to challenge it or to, what? Satisfy it.
You challenge it or,
Which means these people shouldn't be in damn jail.
Go ahead.
okay, if you don't challenge it, then you.
What they do, they take what you would call tacit acquiescence, they represent you because you have not presented. See, it's a claim against the estate, which is the straw man, which is the name of a Sister QV trust that's registered on Water Street.
How do we go up that bond?
Such persons are declared wards of the state. Therefore, the corporate state operatives are claiming to be your FOFR or your trustee. unless or until you step up and say that that's not the case. You ain't got to buy it. You ain't got to apply for it. You got to declare it. Because you're talking about heirship.
So how do you just ask for the bond?
No, get it in your...
So do you just ask for the bond? You just go to
You're
the
supposed to
police
demand
station?
it, but you didn't have to demand it. It's supposed to come from your community, from your counselor. You basically shouldn't have to say anything, but you have to speak for yourself if the persons in your community are not operating. In other words, like this, you go to another jurisdiction, you go to this jurisdiction, and then there's some problem that occurs. He's not supposed to be sitting up here running his mouth. He's supposed to notify you of his nationality. You have a representative called the consular. And a consular sends a consular down there, and unless you have a serious claim, you got to release the body to him immediately. Because if there's an issue, it's to be brought to consular court. You ain't supposed to hold him, he's a national. The reason it doesn't happen with us is because we claim to be Negro, black, and colored. We come under the Christian black codes by agreeing to be those things.
So the Northeast region is our closest.
Talking to Mike, bro.
No, let's not. That may be true. I'm making a point to you because this is really for the listeners. Because people who don't understand this disagree. It's because they don't understand. But they don't understand because they have not been enforcing the Constitution. They have not been studying civics. And people who know it haven't been telling them. See, they would rather have you pay them to have meetings to sit around and discuss Negro problems. What do we do to fix this thing? All the economic, political problems, Constitution and treaty. Yeah, but what we want to do is have a meeting and talk about economic security. That's Article 1, Section 10. Yeah, but that's that more stuff. What we want to do is have a meeting and talk about the racism and the prejudice that we've taken our sandwiches. The Constitution is bringing on. Yeah, but we ain't into that. But what we want, and this is what our problem is. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Sir.
We keep abandoning the platform that was put before you were born to cure your problems in government, and we keep doing everything else.
Excuse me, sir.
We keep abandoning the platform.
And let him just finish saying what he got to say, and then, you know what I mean, you had your chance, y'all kind of cut.
You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, the treaty and the Constitution are to be looked at as one document. That's why they exist. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, when you, and that you is us plural, fail to answer up to it in an issue of controversy, and that's the platform, then that means you've abandoned the platform was designed to bring remedy to your issue. Now you got to make up programs. Now you're subject into jurisdictions that someone else controls. Because they're not bound to it because you stepped off the platform. Are we clear? So all they need to do is pay Negro marching leader guys to convince you to do that. And they usually claim to love Jesus, and oh, that's the man of God. And you follow him. Now we ain't got nothing. And then when they finish with them Negro like leader guys, they kill them because they're no longer useful. They did their job. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's our history. That's what they call black history. That's a condition. That's not a people. That's a period and a condition. Are we clear?
Clear.
It's a false paradigm of Moorish history. It's a fall period. Are we clear?
Clear.
Yes, sir. Also,
Give me the mic, please.
Yeah. Also, hit a little bit more on the treaty with the more.
You got speaking to Mike
and the Constitution.
Yeah.
That was drafted. It was drafted actually from the Moors Sharia type of law. In other words, the law.
Yeah, the law, Hermetic law, your Hermetic principles,
and also
the law of the great peace. They call it the law of the great peace and honesty.
Right.
honesty, or the Iqua Confederation. It's not Indian tribes, it's honesty, Iqua Confederation. This is of your North Gate of Canaan land, or what you call Canada, so on the border of the north with, say, the Mohawk, Mohicans, honesty, confederation, not tribes. It's a confederation of tribes. The Lenape, you know, Nanacook, even down to this area. And so those principles, those ancient principles were adopted. This is why they tell you the Constitution for the United States was adopted. It didn't come from them, it was adopted. This is why Obama, you know, who's a Kenyan, exposed that the American Constitution, Al-Moroccan Constitution, logically comes from Muslim law. It does. Problem is that the people here don't know their own history, and they think it came from the pen of Madison, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin. They were deists who were brought into government structure, given a fez, and taking a pledge to the Republic order to stop the hundreds of years wars between the Muslims and the Christians. That's what the United States Republic is, not the U.S. democracy. That's the feudal order that was used to overthrow the Republic. That's why they closed down all Republic orders in the southern states when they institutionalized slavery for its relationship to the Moors, because they could not maintain slavery under a Republican order, because it's protected by constitutional principles. So they had to overthrow the Republic. That's the secret treaty of Verona. You see?
And the Jim Crow stuff,
Please stand the mic and talk.
And the Jim Crow stuff, yeah.
Well, yeah, those are just different names for exercising or implementing unum sanctum.
And also hit a little bit on that.
We've got to stay in the mic when you talk.
Also hit a little bit on the, I don't know if a lot of us remember, this brother, he was Wayne Williams, I believe, and they incarcerated him for some murders.
Atlanta murders.
Yeah.
Talking about the Atlanta murders.
Yes, when
Wayne Williams.
Children were missing.
Oh, yeah, the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, who needs to get their paper signed? Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut it like at 10:15, and so he can go ahead and do that for y'all. So it's like an hour.
Yeah. Now, the deal of it is, you got to keep in mind the substitute bays. The substitute bays will be called governors. All right. Mm-hmm. Yes, they're substitute bays, and the consular, not the consular, the curia members are usually different members of what you call your city councils or the municipalities, etc. To hide the fact that they were using the children in experiments. And they're also stealing, they're doing what they call spirit cooking. And they needed body parts. And so they were murdering these children, and he was a patsy.
Yeah.
Was and is a patsy. But that's a secret only to the masses who want to believe the public narrative. When they've been murdering children, and they get rid of the bodies by mixing them into hamburgers and selling them back to people through fast food. In Atlanta. That's the Central Disease Control in that area too.
Like 82,
That's when they do the biological warfare from there.
It's like 82.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Give him the mic.
Got a question in reference to those bodily instruments. When you give them back or you denounce those instruments,
Talking to Mike, brother.
what affects the,
It's not that you give them back. See, we have to, and this is where where training and education comes in. We got to get out of this mentality of giving back something in the sense like that, nothing happens. It's like this. The people themselves must come together in organized principle. Enforce the Constitution obligation on all persons who claim to be public officials. Go against their surety bond. This is another area of bond. Anyone that's doing business at North America, claiming to be government, in municipalities, cities, townships, states, the federal government, have what is known as a surety bond. They're obligated to have that. And that surety bond is an insurance policy to protect the people / citizenry from abuses of people in government. If at any time they breach you, you're supposed to make a lien on the bond. Now, the people who are in your community that claim to be imams, reverends, priests, etc., grand chiefs, etc., are really ministers with dual crowns, which means they're ministers in ecclesiastic law and they're ministers in government. They're supposed to interfere in your behalf under a consular principle and put a lien against their bonds. That's supposed to be routine. That's an automatic, unless such persons are outside of governmental operations, i.e. they're admitted property, then they have no right to do that. If they're called people of color, they have no rights of humans. So they have no standing in law. So they need leader guys to convince them that people of color is an endearment term of Afrocentricity. No, it means artificial persons and artificial people having no rights in the human family. That's what it means. But they don't read. And so they're agreeing to the Christian black codes, although they're complaining when they're enforced. This is a problem. So when you render unto Caesar what is Caesar, you do it in an organized fashion. Why? It's called nationality. It's called nation operations. So when you're dealing with nationhood, you deal with representative government. You're dealing with people who represent the interests under guidance of principles that are already written. The different nation states, and they're harmonic too. They're not in conflict, they're harmonic. Now, if you're not on that platform now, you can make the argument, but you're on your own, and no man's an island. And this is where we have our problems, are we clear? Now, secretly, a lot of people get what you call satisfaction. And most of the time, what the Romans will do is, like, say you start making a claim, like you're talking about, you know, telling the state persons who are representing the corporate state of your rights and their obligations, they'll usually stop and then say, well, wait, and they'll put you to the last and then try all the cattle, then bring you up when all the cattle are either in jail or got all their fines, then dismiss your case.
That happens. It's happened already.
Yeah, but that's how it goes. However, it should not have to be that way. It has to be that way. Why? Because when the rights are abridged by people holding trust, then the rights revert back to the people. And you have logically the obligation of your self-interest to claim the right. Wisdom says that organized we should be doing this. And it should be taught to everyone so that you can, neutralize these bonds. Because whenever you neutralize a bond, they will attack you because you're killing their stock market. Their derivatives die. So when the people start waking up, they'll start making systems of promise. Well, why don't you do UCC1 financial statement, give us all your information, and capture the straw man, and then we'll let you get a hold of the Sister QB Trust, and you can become the executor. And then get you to sign stuff. Now they got a contract. You see, that's how they do it. When the real deal is you need to claim your right to sign shit. Your right of claim comes from your office, don't come from another man's office. Once they get you to try to agree for a benefit, they get you.
Which is a passport.
So
Hold on, man. Let's stay in order.
So in other words, you say that UCC is the booby trap.
However, because it's commerce, it's the rule of commerce. Because they're operating on commerce, because they're doing human trafficking. However, the point that I'm making to you, whenever they make a rule in governing bodies, they must make a remedy. This is why they had 208, and then when people woke up, they make it, 207, and then they turn it to 308 after people wake up. You step back into the constitutional order. That's the remedy.
Don't gotta worry about that.
You can't say they didn't have a doorway, didn't they? So people start trying to use the UCCs to get a hold commercially the estate. And if they get you to do that, you're seeking a benefit. Now you sanction the fraud. That's the trap.
And what they're gonna do is they're gonna let some people slip through.
Yes, to encourage you to do it.
Right.
I got a question.
Once you seek a benefit in what you know is a fraud, at that time you let them off the hook for any future reparations. See, reparations is international law where the injuries of one identified nation of people is injured by another identified nation of people. Reparations just doesn't happen. You must identify the parties. And the claims must be made in a consular venue on an international law court. Not in some marching, complain we somebody venue. Do you understand? Now, if you choose to do that, you can. Don't expect remedy. Expect to get bounced around for years and frustrated, and they're going to rob you of all your finance and rule you under the 14th Amendment corporate venue of the corporate states which are incompetent.
So in other words, you're saying you go at that, the person.
The person is the corporation. That's why 1868 they gave the United States Service Corporation the designation person so they could convert the people's estate to back the U.S. corporation debt. That's why they keep promoting the United States as a country when it's really a private corporation of Franciscan operatives, of Europeans operating in America. They're not Americans. It's a private corporation. And they have stock. Who are the stock? The people. And as long as we keep acting like it and don't rebut it, it is assumed jurisdiction. And all contract operations are called tacit acquiescence because you're not challenging them. That means you agree. That's why they say these people consent to their slavery. Then when they find out about it, they try to get their hand in it rather than refuting the fraud and rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar's and claiming their estate. Because that's what he's tapping. He's tapping on your estate. Why don't you try to get your estate? Why are you trying to get his permission through his instrumentality that are all colored?
So in other words,
Right here, man. You gotta use the mic, man. You gotta use the mic.
Gotta get the mic.
Okay, how do we, okay, you said do the proclamations, right?
Say again?
You said do proclamations?
Now why?
That's what I'm getting
No, just use your common sense. Think about it.
To let people know who I am and where I stand.
Now, all right. What are operating here? You have estate law, trust law, and contract law. Are we clear? So, when an heir, since everything is dealing with trust and contract, when an heir in estate law and inheritance law demonstrates competence and maturity and speaks up, the chauffeur or trustee must release the estate. There can be no condition. You don't have to apply to him for shit. You must proclaim you're an heir and command he release the estate. We're not saying whether he does it or not, that's what your obligation is, lest you be proven incompetent.
Okay, so.
And he can't put a lien on it.
So how do you proclaim? Where do you?
All right, now listen. As an example, I'm selling pit bulls. They're blues. They got strong bones, shots and everything. I usually would charge $700, but because you my boy, letting them go for $500, right? So here's the first one off the auction. Come on, Brutus, come on, man. Get up on the table, man, show them your stuff. So the pit bull gets up there, and they all start making bidding. And everything's going good, the bid's going up, right? Then he goes, meow. This is the same thing in law when we start talking about rights and claim to be black. and we don't get it yet. Do you understand?
No. How do you
You
take
must be in your plural,
Yeah.
must be in your proper person to make a claim on any estate whatsoever.
How do you do that?
Nationalization, that's what it's called.
How do you do that?
You proclaim it,
How
because
do you do
it's
that?
already your bloodline.
How do you do it?
You make it publicly known, that's what a proclamation is. Even if you wrote it on toilet paper, it's valid in law. In other words, it must, meaning that, you know, like, example.
Because I'm saying I've wrote the proclamation and
No, that's the beginning.
No, okay, but listen. And so I'm trying to get it in the paper so it can be public.
What paper?
Does it matter? How do you make it
All
public?
right, let's back up. Let's back up. The major thing is to let Rome know that you know, and that is no longer hidden. How many of our people got $200 sneaks?
Many.
How many of our people support Reverend Pigfoot's building and they're mortgaged up to here for generations? And down the other block, Pastor Pigfoot and Reverend Porkchop with the $60 million plane with the widow's pennies, and the imam over here collecting charity, and you can't go 4 blocks in any direction with all these houses that are mortgaged, that they're lying and saying belong to God when it belongs to them. And the Baptist convention in, I think it's in Carolina, including all them so-called black churches, really belong there, them Europeans. And all of them are mortgaged with European contractors that usually build them and have little token Negroites doing the tack work, but they get all the contracts, and these people are in mortgages of the hock, but they can't do their own newspaper. So they're looking for the European to go against his own bond system to post your proclamation, which claims the bond. I'm answering your question, but I'm showing you our mentality. And then how do you get that published? You start doing the stuff that you all gave up, you start producing that again. Don't give Reverend Pigfoot no more Roman tithe. You come together with your family and others and you start the paper and you publish it. If you don't have that, you got the internet, post it. What does it do? It starts killing the bond wherever that name, that's wardship on it, without even capturing it. Not asking them for it, because they got bonds with allonges all around the world, and those allonges are attached to their birth certificates and their marriage certificates, so they ain't giving them up, so you ain't capturing them, so forget that. When people keep saying that they're capturing the birth, you ain't capturing, they ain't giving you crap. And a copy of something is not the original. And if it ain't the original, you're not the holder in due course, so let's get off of this idea. What you must do is choke Rome's bond system. Symbolically, in the Wizard of Oz, you know how they have the wicked witch, and the good witch says to Dorothy, oh, Dorothy, I noticed you was checking out her Gucci shoes and stuff. You like them shoes, Dorothy? Yeah, but I just want to go home and shit. Right? And so the good witch says, ching, and the shoes come on and Dorothy says, oh, yeah. Start doing the slop and stuff. Right. The moral of the story is, the house falls on the bad witch, right? The house from the heavens, the houses, and it smashes her, but her feet are sticking out, and the stockings curl up.
Stocks.
Exactly. The estate will revert to you automatically, the foundation, which is the shoes, the red ruby slippers, the bowl of red pottage in the book of Genesis, the sale of the birthright, chapter 25, 2 and 5 and 7. Rebecca, then they call Matuaka, Rebecca, right here in the land of virgins. So Matuaka, they called Rebecca, and they murdered her on Gravesend, England, didn't they? And then rewrote her in history as Pocahontas. They buried her, didn't they? More than the body. Her name is Pocahontas is Matawaka. She's the potentess of the Powhatan Confederation. Then they set up that spot there on James River and named it after Prince James, pedophile, and working for the Popes of Rome under the Spanish Inquisition. So that's the James River. Commissioned to translate the Septuaginta out of and into what is called the Bible by the Popes of Rome. And so these people are worshiping Romans through the Bible, thinking that it came from Jesus, and they're helping to fund their own enslavement. Do you see how it works? And yet it's done in semantic layer. This is not unknown by scholars, but people who are sold out ain't going to tell it because their uncle's a rev, and their cousin's a pastor. No, they're grandfathers. How about that? And they're serving Rome, not no Jesus, and not no Allah, and not no Yahweh. They're serving Rome. Get over yourself. Now, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and what instead of looking for a benefit, let's come together, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, let it fall apart. It will revert back to you. Don't reach in trying to get a benefit. Be patient. Don't mean don't do anything. It means don't be tempted to stick your hand into offer. Stick your hand through the gate right here and get this apple. Choom. Well, here's a nice red apple. Bite it and we'll give you access to the Sister QV Trust. Don't bite that damn apple. Meaning any offer they make you, if they made that offer, it's poison. Guaranteed. You must make the claim on your own. You're an heir, act like it. You don't ask for permission, you speak up. Knowing that you're basically alone in a sense, but you're not alone. The problem with us is that we really fear Rome, which is why people won't speak up. Because they don't fear no God, no Allah, no Yahweh. They fear Rome. Right. Rome's their God. Right. See, but nobody's supposed to say it. Nobody's supposed to admit it. Right. Now, when they become seriously true to themselves about these bondage, they will reject them. And if they are using them, they will qualify themselves in their use and still reject them to Rome, knowing that in law, agreement cannot be made by the parties in any contract because original jurisdiction goes back to that Constitution. That means even if you have a license, the right doesn't give up. Now, speak up. Now, if you're competent, you do. If you don't, you start telling, well, see, my job at McDonald's, the reason I couldn't make payments because, and start telling it, then you accepted the debt. You start saying, what I want is your bond number. And you're in breach, and I have your oath of ethics right here. And I have your oath to the Constitution. Now you're saying before this venue, before men, that you're breaching this just to try to injure me because you're enforcing the Christian black codes in your secret treaty of Verona. That's for the record, y'all. And watch how fast he say no low prosecutor. But we don't go there, do we? Because our people won't study civics. Then what happens, they start getting this knowledge and they start trying to get a benefit as individuals rather than teaching or trying to help everyone else. The same way we keep organizing people for church, mosque, and synagogue, we should be organizing them and teaching them civil government, civil principles, and enforcing that Constitution, and these township operators would collapse. That's how it's done. And so the deal of it is we do the momentum by making example of proclamation available to the people so that on their own right, that wave can start. And I say this to you. One of the reasons why the U.S. corporation operators are in trouble now is because people have been nationalizing. Because the bonds, wherever they are dead paper.
So you're talking about
derivatives.
The proclamation thing is national.
That's what's killing them.
Okay.
You're not asking them for anything. You're declaring heirship. Meanwhile, you're stating their obligations. And this is only synopsis, because the principles that are on the proclamation can be expanded. And they can be reduced. But the real principle is that the public proclamation must be made. In other words, the heir must speak up. You know, like they show movies, say this old mansion or something like that, that beautiful architecture, but it looks almost abandoned. Or if it's not abandoned, it's hidden behind trees, and people are riding, like they'll make movies and people are riding down the road and they've been down there a million times and never noticed this building, and they back up. Wait a minute, damn, they get out of the car and they walk through the bushes and what the hell? And they see this big beautiful mansion and they go up on the door, they do the knocker, and this European comes to the door, butler or whatever. We never knew anybody lived here. Is anybody here? We thought this was an abandoned mansion. No, it's not. It's our shit. Boom, close the door, right? And you're walking away or driving away and you notice some little boy or somebody up in the 3rd floor in the window. You can't hear them, but they're waving, trying to get your attention. That symbolizes the real heir to the property who's been taken over by this other. This is what is happening with us. We are the heirs of the land taken over by Europeans who are claiming to be Americans, and we have not been speaking up.
Open that window.
And then when we do speak up, we speak up in his name or his religion, which means we've abandoned our estate. By not knowing law and history and status in heirship, not knowing that status and estate are equals. The leader guys know this, but they won't teach us because they're bought off with their 501c3 skull and bones agreement. Even though they got a Moorish fez in their Masonic lodges, pretend that they don't know these people are Moors and under bondage. Are we clear? Now, point that I'm making. Our difficulty is kind of like trying to get the people to remove their egos out of this. And recognize it's not that we don't have rights as single energies, but our gift is in the gift of others. Meaning that if you seek to remedy yourself, aid somebody who does not know, and do it sincerely, then Mother will come to your aid. It will be done.
Now when we did the proclamation.
Get in.
So we got the proclamation done. When we were talking about it. So how does that going to get?
It's not how that gets anything.
Well, no, listen to me.
Great.
How's that going to get me on the trust that Noble Joe Ali has set up?
No.
How does that work?
No. You yourself are the walking trust. You're an heir. You got to understand what it is. See,
no, it's not. Let me say something. Right now, Akbar, I see you out there too on the Facebook Live. But what's going on right now is nothing is going to be easy. They see, man, that the heirs are waking up. They see it. That's why everything is coming down right now. Well, it seems like everything is coming down right now. So everything that you do, that you're supposed to do, they still gonna come down on you. That's right. They gonna come down on you, man, because they know their time is up. So it's nothing that's gonna be easy for us. We gotta stop thinking, I'm not talking about you, but I'm saying we gotta stop thinking that things is gonna be easy, like it's, a cakewalk. It ain't gonna be like that right now. Right now, we at war right now, for real. We in straight up war.
They've been warring on us for generations.
But now it's like right in your face.
Yeah.
And so, like I've been looking at people online, and they say, the Moors going to get you locked up. Nah, man. Even
let's back up with that. Let's deal with that. Moorish Science Temple of America, Old Canaanite Temple, Moorish Temple of Science, sometimes known as Moorish Temple of Science. Act 1, chairman and moderator put in power to make law and to enforce law. If they live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it's known by all the members. That's constitutional enforcement. In the divine warning by the prophet for the nation, the command to these Moors is help them in the great missionary work to bring these people back into the constitutional fold of government. The people have been doing that. And you know who's been criticizing them? Them people who should have been enforcing the law, who betrayed the movement. Those are the trolls who betrayed the prophet. This movement been on operation 106 years, going on 107 years. And these Moors been suffering, the Europeans been stealing their properties, etc. But there have been some faithful Moors that have the guts to put their neck out on the line under threats and everything to stand on truth and tell the truth while others sat on their butts criticizing and trolling when they were supposed to enforce the law. But they betrayed their seats and they betrayed the people. Now, people who come out here and teach constitutional principles, they're the ones that are really signifying at and attacking. Why? It shows them up. That's number one. When the people start studying, they'll start recognizing these people are traitors. And just because they're saying Noble Drew Ali in the temple, nonetheless, they're traitors. They're supposed to be out here on these hedges and the highways teaching the people the truth of constitutional enforcement, which is at the heart of the Moorish movement. Traitors. That troll is a traitor, like a lot of other traitors. However, in due time, when these people figure out these traitors, they'll need to apologize to me or anyone else. They're going to need to run for their lives because they may be hanging from the nearest light pole, just like a lot of these reverend pork feet who've been stealing these widows' pennies, who they've been working for, pretending that their obligation is not to enforce that Constitution, and saying that these Moors who are teaching Constitution and civics are getting Moors in trouble. No, we're taking a stand because we got guts. We got testicles, and they got peas that are still so right. And that's the truth. And they want to discourage, because as people study this, you'll see why we have problems. And you'll see why we're in the shape we are with these bond instruments. And 90% of them got a 501c3 themselves. Are we clear?
Clear.
So they're going to tell you that Drew Ali didn't teach civics. Well, constitutional enforcement is the highest level of civics. I challenge anyone to prove that it's not. Noble Drew Ali say, study Marcus Mosiah Garvey. What did he teach? Civics and governmental structure. Noble Drew Ali said, take your places amongst the affairs of men. Isn't that called international law communications? He said, help me in my great missionary work to bring our people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America. That's what we've been doing. Has there been resistance? Yes, there has. Has Europeans been pushing back? Yes, it has. Why? Because they've been living off your virtues. And their house in the Poconos, they can't maintain it if they can't maintain this Negro problem, which is your problem. Some of us have courage to come out and do something about it. Some ain't got the courage, so they sit back like roaches and criticize the people who are really doing the work that they should have been doing with their traitor answers.
That's right.
Because and some of them people wouldn't even know about their birthright if Taji guy with the cheap sneaks hadn't been out here for years.
That's right.
To tell why they sat on their butts.
That's right.
Now, let me tell you this. Just for those who don't know. Yes, there's resistance. But we have brothers and sisters that's come into this movement directly from the church who were inspired. And they came from finance and left that for principle. And so far, they've gotten over 30 people out of prisons. One of them who happened to be Elijah Muhammad's grandson, who had years.
Islam. I tell them, go run and tell them.
Oh, that's the trouble that we're starting, y'all. But they don't write that in the papers.
That's right.
Even Chinese have come to me, and I have documents to prove it, and you know about it, where the IRS was taking his property. Put an eel on his name because they've been here with us for years. The IRS wrote back to him, we agreed that you are not obligated to the tax. Then no more liens on his
Islam. Now go run and tell that. Cowards.
Now, that's what them grand chiefs is supposed to be doing for all these Moorish Americans, but they won't do that, will they?
Won't do that.
They want to say, let us pray.
Yup. Yup. That's right.
You know, the deal of it is, it takes work.
That's right.
Now, this is what's happening. When the Red House fell, that's where Michelle went to the Alhambra, a signal. 1492, January the 1st, near midnight. So the Romans changed the calendars. He took the calendar. That ain't Gregory's calendar, that's Egyptian calendar. He adjusted for the leap year, what you call, and they give credit to him. The deal of it is January 1st is not New Year. It's March the 21st. What is called the Passover, or the star is now in the east, Ishtar. Ishtar.
The vernal equinox.
Yes, vernal equinox, right? That's the celebration of the fall of the Moors. That's why they would do it in what you call blackface, and it's in Philadelphia because that's where they stole your birthright. They're Oddfellows down there at Carpenter's Hall, right 2 blocks beneath Independence Hall. That's fact. Now the point of the matter is, these people claim to be Moorish Americans, Grand Sheiks and Sheikesses should have been on the hedges and the highways giving this information to these people. Not only that, even with the publication of the proclamation, Noble Drawley had 2 papers. Press, everything, owned it. You know who broke them papers down and junked them? Them Grand Sheiks of the Moorish Science Temple of America, betraying them. You know who had the largest fishing sheep industry on the East Coast? Moors. It was passed down to the Temple of Islam after the great sellout with J. Edgar Hoover. And then after that, the Europeans got it back. And all Kane Avenue, which was in Camden, which was owned by Moors, Moorish Muslims and Moorish Jews. Now they got nothing. Where's them Grand Sheiks and stuff teaching? They're in little clubs acting like they're in church. So we have to come out in a venue like this to teach the truth, because they will disallow it to happen in the houses where it should have been happening generations ago. However, we've got enough honorable people, honorable to principle.